Putin's war in Ukraine is a train wreck. He may have 120,000 victims. On the 162nd day of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Russian military is still looking for a breakthrough in eastern Ukraine, while Ukrainian forces are stepping up pressure with a counterattack in the southern part of the country. Kherson is now in the spotlight as the Ukrainian military is poised to retake the sizable provincial capital. Russian losses. Russian troops continue to suffer heavy losses in Ukraine. Since the beginning of the conflict, the exact number of casualties has been variable due to the ever-present fog of war and various, often conflicting reporting sources. Official Ukrainian figures claim that the Russian military has lost more than 41,000 troops killed in action. Based on this figure, we can estimate that the Kremlin also has between 80,000 and 120,000 wounded soldiers. Historically, for every one killed, there are 2 to 3 wounded soldiers. Taken together, these figures would bring the total Russian casualties to between 120,000 and 160,000, compared to the initial pre-invasion force of about 200,000, but the Russians have since committed additional troops. The situation on the ground suggests that the Russian military really suffered heavy losses. The absence of large-scale offensive operations even before Ukraine acquired game-changing long-range firefights, the M142 Highly Mobility Artillery Rocket System, HIMARS, and the M270 Multiple Launch Rocket System, MLRS, combined with structural changes to Russian units, indicates that Russian forces are not enough troops. However, the actual total number of Russian casualties could be around the 75,000 mark, according to U.S. officials. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry said as of Thursday Ukrainian forces had killed about 41,500 Russian troops, and wounded about 3 times as many, destroyed 223 fighter jets, attack and transport aircraft, 191 attack and transport helicopters, 1,789 tanks, 946 artillery pieces, 4,026 armored personnel carriers and infantry fighting vehicles, 260 multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS, 15 boats and boats, 2,960 vehicles and fuel tanks, 118 anti-aircraft batteries, 742 tactical unmanned aerial systems, 83 special equipment platforms such as bridge vehicles, and 4 Iskander mobile ballistic missile systems, as well as 180 cruise missiles shot down Ukrainian air defense. Grain situation. In its daily update, the British Ministry of Defense touched upon the Ukrainian grain situation. On Wednesday, the first Ukrainian cargo ship carrying about 26,000 tons of corn sailed through the Bosphorus in Turkey, and is now bound for Lebanon. This came after several months of negotiations between Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, and the United Nations. On August 3, 2022, the first ship with Ukrainian grain arrived in the Bosphorus, passing through the Black Sea from Odessa. It is almost certain that the success of this transit will lead to more frequent transits in both directions. Liquidating the backlog caused by the blockade, which has been in effect since February 2022, will remain a logistical problem, British military intelligence estimated. The movement of Ukrainian grain is of paramount importance for hundreds of millions of people around the world, but especially for Africa and the Middle East, who depend on it for their basic needs. It remains to be seen whether the agreement will be implemented and Ukrainian cargo ships will be able to leave Odessa without interference from the Russian Navy. Russia, a terrorist state? Russian troops committed atrocious war crimes in Ukraine. And not only ordinary foot soldiers commit them. Ballistic and cruise missiles have hit civilian targets, killing and maiming innocent people countless times. People are thus increasingly calling for Russia to be declared a terrorist state. To designate Russia as a terrorist state, the U.S. State Department must decide that it meets the required parameters. Although Congress wants Moscow to be declared a terrorist state, the State Department is unlikely to follow through with the proposal because of the attendant diplomatic ramifications. With a major nuclear power, now one feels that Russia has begun to realize the inevitability of being recognized as a terrorist state. After all that the Russian army and supposedly private Russian military companies have done, no other terrorist organization in the world can claim to be the leader in terror. Russia is definitely number one among the terrorists. And this certainly deserves legal consequences, in particular, in the decisions of the United States and other world actors, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said at his daily briefing on Thursday.